Welcome, lovely listeners, to Soul Stirred, stories of growth and the human experience. I'm Emily Garcia.
And I'm Kasey Clark.
We will be your guides on this journey. We are so glad you are here.
Each week we'll come together, sometimes with other incredible thinkers, creators, and adventurers, to generously share stories of self-discovery, recovery, triumph, and what it means to live a life on purpose.
No matter where you are in your own journey, connection is here for you at Soul Stirred.
Settle in, take a deep breath in, and let's inspire each other.
Welcome to Soul Stirred. You know, we were talking about the things, the risks you take in life, and when you do something that you have no idea about, like
how it's going to turn out, or if it'll work.
It can be personal, it can be professional, but we were talking about professionally when you take a risk and you're like, okay, there are all these voices. So there's some interesting stuff in there.
Yeah, no kidding. It harkens me back to a few years ago when I was just in the beginning stages of like questioning. I was in a pretty high level leadership role at that. For me, it was the highest level in leadership I had ever gone in my career. And things were starting to just feel kind of tangled up and swirly inside. I was feeling like this noise that it's time for a change, but then I wasn't sure what I wanted next, what I didn't want next, what the change might want to be. And yeah, to your point about the voices inside, like those things go volume all the way up to 10 during those times in life where there's so much uncertainty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is like the voices that can be so critical
Mhm.
are really loud when there's uncertainty. How did you
Yeah.
get past it?
It's such a good question, but you know what comes to mind is like I didn't get past it. I got through it one day at a time, and literally like walking through what felt inside like a storm. It was a stormy chapter
Yeah.
in life. And I don't know how I knew to do this, but in retrospect, you know how sometimes in hindsight things are more clear than they are at the time
Oh,
while you're doing what you're doing.
almost always. Yeah.
Right. I think I just said to my therapist last week, like, I want to flip that switch that lets me know in foresight as clearly the things that I know to be true in hindsight. And he's like, Kasey, that's life. You're never going to have that. It's so disappointing.
Oh, come on.
Anyhow, back in the middle of my stormy chapter of like, who am I and what am I going to do next with my life? What I did was took 40 days off work and went on a 4,000-mile road trip by myself, just me and my dog in my Mini Cooper. I had saved up a bunch of PTO from never having taken any while I was in my leadership role. Also, because of stories I told myself about how nobody could live without me and I couldn't take a day off and what would happen if I wasn't here and, the bullshit that we tell ourselves is truth. So I had all of this time off in the bank, and HR was emailing me like on a weekly basis. If you don't use some of this leave, you're going to lose it. And I was like standing at this crossroads in life. Like, I don't know where I want to go from here or what value I want to add to the world or my own life. So I said, I'm going to use some of my time off. And I took 40 days and I packed up my little Mini Cooper with me and my dog, and we drove from Colorado up through Wyoming and Montana into Washington, down the Pacific Coast Highway of California, into Baja, Mexico, and back. And when I got back, I quit. I was just done with that chapter of my life. It had just come to a point of completion. And I didn't feel like I had more to give it. I felt like it was taking more from me than it was rewarding me. I did not know what was gonna be next. I just knew that I needed to start letting go of some things that were no longer serving me.
It's such a fascinating thing because, okay, so you're working, you're going, and
Mhm.
can't take time off. Everyone needs me, can't leave. And then you take 40 days off and you're like, wait a minute. It's like we need space away from our ego in that particular identity to make a decision. And
Yeah.
so then your
Yeah.
ego wasn't in the driver's seat. It was like what is really right for you could be in the driver's seat.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. But it required me to detach, disconnect
Mhm.
from the thing that had been attached to,
Mm.
and slow down and spend some really quality time with myself,
Yeah.
listening to myself, feeling myself, tuning into my own body. And in that way, Duncan was really my teacher. Like, he was my road trip partner, and I had to slow down in my relationship with him too,
Mm.
to start to listen in order to learn what it was he needed to be well cared for while we were spending 40 days in a tiny little car. You know, like, how was I gonna tune myself into when he needed to go to the bathroom or eat or be walked or sleep, or he's too hot when he doesn't have words? The only way for me to learn how to care for his needs was to listen from a really deep place that can hear what's being communicated without words. And in order for that to happen, I had to get quiet
Yeah.
and, like, free from all of the noise that was in my life. And then wisdom just sort of emerged. I it didn't make Here's how I know it was wisdom and why I call it wisdom, because nothing about what I was doing made any logical sense whatsoever.
Yeah.
The fact that I had been in this industry of child welfare services and human services for 25 years, I had been at the university at that time for 10. I had built up seniority, credibility, reputability, a retirement account, a pretty substantial paycheck, and I was ready to wash my hands of all of it
Hmm.
and walk away because my body was saying, "This is taking more than it's giving back."
Yeah.
But to hear that, I had to get quiet and slow down and listen to my body, I think probably for the first time ever in my life.
Mm.
Mhm.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Connect with who you really are and what you really need and not out of the lens of what is expected of me and what does everyone want from me. I mean, that's an
Yeah.
incredible experience.
Yeah, and as I hear you reflect it back to me, it also occurs to me, like, doing what was right for me, this is probably retrospectively one of the parts that was so hard at the time that I didn't recognize, was doing what's right for me means letting down a lot of people
Mm.
who are counting on me and who I love genuinely, deeply, authentically. But to do what's good for me right now, I have to tell them something they don't want to hear,
Which is so scary.
which is so scary and hard. I think for all of us, right? Because
Mhm.
that's where the voices creep up from inside, because it's like, am I gonna be rejected? Am I gonna be lost? Will people still like me? Am I gonna and guess what? All those things I was afraid of happened.
Yeah.
People did make up stories about me. People did judge what I was doing. People did, talk about me without me. People did conclude negative things that I don't feel are the truth, and people did disconnect from relationship with me. It was one of the most painful decisions, like, it cost me a ton of pain that I could not have anticipated in advance, and yet it was also wise and in service of me.
Mhm.
It
Yeah.
it is it is difficult to rewire those parts of our neural pathways that get hardwired in us in early life, and for me, one of those hard wires goes like this: put others before self, always.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So, I guess I attribute this part to the universe, but, like, it had to work hard to get my attention,
Mhm.
to get me to see the error in my own ways. It had to kind of bang the lesson up against my head for
Yeah, like you didn't hear the little pebble,
exactly. I
the
didn't
little
hear
rock. It
the
was like,
answer.
"Hello."
Exactly. I had to be lassoed and, like, pulled, like, "Are you gonna get it?"
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
It's interesting though because the thing the story in our head about how other people will perceive it and how mad they're going to be at us is what often prevents us from doing something. And in this situation for you, people were mad and
mhm,
it was awful. It was painful
mhm,
and
and it was still the right thing to do.
it was still the right thing to do. You wouldn't go
Sometimes
back and do it differently.
no,
Yeah.
no, because it was, I really do believe that life happens for us, not to us.
Mhm.
Um, and what I know now that I could not have clearly articulated then, because I didn't know then what I know now, is that I had completed an arc.
Mhm.
I the story as I tell it to myself is while my younger, ego-driven, less mature self was telling itself a story that I was in that field of work to help and save and rescue
Mhm.
other people. The truth of it was there was something in me that needed to be saved and rescued and protected.
Mm.
And I couldn't do the work that I needed to do for myself to save myself
Right.
while I was still in the throes and in the midst of that environment. Um, distance was required.
Mhm.
Like, distance, I think, is part of medicine. Distance, whether you and it comes in many forms, right? Distance, detachment, disconnection, whatever you wanna call it, is sort of a first step towards acknowledging something more true and real, and then learning to accept that and ultimately learning to surrender. Um, you can't see clearly when you hold the words of the page right up against your face, but if you push them back a little bit, suddenly things come into focus.
Yeah, you can see the whole paragraph, the whole page.
Yeah,
It's true. Yeah.
right.
Everything you talked about is what we are talking to our guest, Ruth, today.
Oh, goody. Yeah,
Yeah, we're dogs, the wisdom of dogs, coming back to yourself, knowing what you really need so you can ask for it.
mhm. Well, super.
There's
Let's
so
go
much
welcome her
more.
on the show.
Today, we are meeting with Ruth Andermatt from Andermatt Consulting Experience. She is actually in BC, Canada. So she's coming to us from far away. But Ruth is a self leadership coach whose journey has unfolded far from the expected path. From playing women's university ice hockey in Canada on one of the first athletic scholarship programs in the 1980s to gaining deep corporate leadership insight and over 28 years of leadership coaching experience. She has gathered wisdom through lived experience. Leadership, sports, music, and dogs have been a lifelong source of connection and resonance for her. Today, she shares that wisdom to help women come home to themselves and lead with clarity and ease through some of life's most turbulent chapters. So excited to talk to Ruth.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, thank you for being with us today and being willing to share yours with
Oh,
us, and with our listening audience.
I'm very excited to be here. Yeah.
Good. So, where does your story begin, Ruth?
Well, depends on which beginning we want to start with,
Mm.
but well, I'll give you kind of the backdrop. I'm in Vancouver, Canada, and Vancouver gal, but both my parents were immigrants. So, for me, although I've grown up Canadian, I don't feel very Canadian, which is kind of an interesting blend when you've got both parents from somewhere else. And we were constantly having people come to visit. So it was an interesting way to grow up. So I never took things just, this is where it is. I'll give you the background. My university degree is in physical education. I love watching people thrive. I love watching people rise in who they are. So I did lots of coaching with that. And that was where I specialized in coaching way back when.
Mhm.
And after I finished university, I got what I would tell you is one of my favorite jobs. I went to work at a mental institute. And I don't know if you've ever seen the movie One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Yeah.
That was it. The big skeleton keys, it was wild. And what it really taught me, because you don't know where someone is in their medication cycle. How did they adapt to the medication they've got? Where are they? You needed to meet somebody right where they were, right then, and no assumptions and no, this is where he is or she is. It was fascinating training, and I was in my early 20s and going, "Oh my goodness," like, it was wild. And then from there, like so many of the steps on my, travel into where I am now, I went to work at Xerox, so I went into direct sales because
Yeah.
that's where you go after working at a mental institute is directly into business.
Makes so
Yeah.
much sense.
I know. So then I was in Xerox in business, and then cell phones started coming along. I was there for a bunch of time, and I did this sales training for Western Canada. So I developed and delivered sales training, then ultimately became a director of sales and ultimately director of operations, where I was responsible for a staff of 70. And it was interesting because I was in my early 30s. I had 5 branches, all run by men.
Wow.
They were not so taken with the token skirt.
Yeah.
And I was the only woman in Canada in the position at that level. And I tell you, it was fascinating. It was fascinating. And there's lots more behind that. But from there, then there were a series of right sizing and laying off and doing that. And I had one of those backroom chats. Do you want to be promoted or would you like to be punted? And I found myself putting my hand up going, "I- I'd like to be packaged." Well, there I was in my late 30s going, well, that's cool. And now what? So then, like I do, another direct line off the beaten path. I went and did training in energy work and Reiki. So
Mm.
I started a practice on like hands on healing
Mhm.
and business coaching, and they stayed separate. And over the years, the Reiki clients wanted to have action steps, and the business clients needed. And we're now talking 28 years ago, help to get grounded in that stuff. And over time, they've they've really aligned. And that's what's brought me into today. And I'm finding I've been doing the leadership coaching for 28 years.
Mhm.
And now more than ever, I understand w- what I've been preparing for. Like
Yeah.
I find what's happening, what's driving people, especially with COVID, where people got disconnected and got rusty at connections. And how do we do this? So that's what's brought me to here. It's a bit of the backstory. I know a longer story on where it is, but really, whenever I could, I tried to take the path
Mhm.
that wasn't the typical, not the expected. What can I learn out of this? And I realize all of those chapters are totally informing what I
Yeah.
can bring forward now. And more than ever, it's having that depth, that experience that really allows people to go, okay, I'm safe with her. Yes, we can have this conversation. There is no rush. Not that they get away with stuff with me, but very clearly, there's lots of angles for us to open up and expand the perception. So,
Sure. Yeah, you're
yeah.
able to hold that space for both, like, compassion and accountability.
Yeah,
People.
yeah.
Yeah.
And as humans, as adults, we tend to only hear the bad news. Like, we need someone in our corner, we need someone that's got our back, but we also need someone that's not gonna let us get away with stuff.
Yeah.
So I find that that's a really helpful place, um, especially right now, because there's a lot of inflated expectations, and then other things just get put aside.
Yeah. Love me enough to tell me the truth about how I'm
Yeah,
getting my own way.
totally,
Yeah.
totally.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
the artistry of coaching. I love
yeah,
it. Yeah.
yeah.
I love the story you told, and it didn't feel long to me at all. I get it, like, when we and I for me, I think I had to get a little age on me in order to realize that everything that happened in my life up until now was in service of me.
Yeah.
Even like you said, when being a sales director at Xerox and learning to manage energy through Reiki didn't seem like they fit together. They were both part of you, and then through you, they blended. So
Well, and when we realize life really does happen for us, not to us,
right.
when we can get that piece out of the way. And as I shared with you as we were starting the call, this last chapter has been pretty significant in my life where I've encountered 3 major legal situations and learning about myself and how do you engage support, and how do you show up, and how do you actually deal with the facts, and how do you let that move you forward. And, when you're paying a lot of money for legal and you just want it to be done, and yet a good friend of mine who is a family lawyer was saying to me, Ruth, you don't want it just done. You want it done right.
Mhm.
So don't rush the chapter. And I'm really glad in these three circumstances that it did find that way. And I'd like to hope they're well in the rearview mirror now. I'm not anticipating anymore. So fingers crossed. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, when
Well,
you mention the legal process, I immediately had this like anxiety because I think when anyone, if you think about being in the court system and having to pay a lawyer and the unknown, it's scary. But then if it involves business, you're like, this is my livelihood. So I'm so curious what you're able to share about that.
Well, what's interesting is when you think that that was wherever you were operating and that really defined you, and then something brings you to your knees and you go, "Oh, man, I'm never gonna get past this. How am I ever gonna survive?" One of the chapters, was a very, big, significant, financial hit, and yet you look and you go, "Just a minute, healthy, happy, capable, perspective shift." I wouldn't be in the position I'm in now if these 3 legal suits hadn't happened, and
mhm,
I wouldn't change a thing about it.
mhm,
During one of them, it was in the process of becoming unmarried, and I moved in with my brother. Well, I got to be so close with my nephew and my sister-in-law and my brother that, what was supposed to be a short period of time ended up to be quite a chunk of time. And it was, the best of times, it was the worst of times. And I wouldn't change a thing. But if
mhm.
you'd asked me at the time, I had some other choice words that we wouldn't want to say on here. But
Yeah.
with 2020 hindsight, I go, you know what? I wouldn't change a thing. And it's made me much more resilient, much more capable of entertaining perspectives, and also having a level of belief in life that if I'm not attached to the form, so many different forms of life can come forward. And
Mhm.
it's like, I don't want to just live with the limited, oh, it needs to be this, oh, it needs to be that.
Yeah.
So, and I also know we get the lessons in relation to our stubbornness. So you can gauge, I've had some elements of being stubborn. So,
Yeah. Well, and we don't get to the place of it served me until we have gone through this sucks. I wish I wasn't here because that's where we always start. But then what a beautiful place to get to go, actually, it changed me for the better. I got
Mhm.
to have experiences that I otherwise wouldn't have had.
well, and I noticed, like, I engaged a business coach in the last year. I've worked with lots of people over the years, but been working with this business coach. And, I've been operating as a generalist in leadership coaching for a long time. And the funny thing is Matthew, who you've had on before, Matthew Gould, he's been poking me, Ruth, you need to specialize in women, Ruth. And I'm like, but I like everybody. I like working with men and women, and I like and he's like, "No, but you've got something to offer with women because you've got the experience." Well, then I'm working with my business coach, and he's like, "Ruth, why are you not specializing in women? Like, you've just got the." And I'm like, "Oh." So then as I've worked with him, the hilarious part has been, okay, so who do I really work with? Okay, I work with, everybody, and I have a big part of my practice that I work with women, but I've also started to notice, oh, predominantly male or female, they're introverted, they're highly sensitive. Many have or are going through high conflict or turbulent divorces. And
Mhm.
it's like, oh, okay. And it just becomes part and parcel of how are they leading? Where are they leading? Where do they want to go? And I would never have thought to say, well, that's actually the niche that I'm working with. And because of my background in there, I can have the conversations. And, knowing the population you work with, it's like, listen, there's nothing that replaces counseling in those fundamental places when you need to unpack, patterns and why you're there. And I'm the next step of, okay, how do I put form to this? I've done a lot of healing. I want to move forward. And it's not an either or. And the elements are so important, so important. But people tend to want to slot. They want it black and white. I want it clear. I want it. And we need to open up to how to support ourselves and how to support everybody else. So,
Yes, ma'am.
yeah,
Many of our listeners are women, and I wonder if we could just drop down and in a little bit for them. Um,
totally.
because we also know that many people in at least our country right now are in a lot of pain.
Yeah.
And I know for me personally, when I'm in pain, it's very difficult to put those futuristic lenses on that look back and go, this is happening in service of me. This is growing me. What what do you suppose your business coach or Matt see in you? Like, what are your gifts to give those women? And can you share with some women who might be listening how you got from those pain points in your life, including being a woman leader in a conference room full of men back at Xerox?
Yeah.
I know
Yeah.
you've got stories to tell. Like,
Oh, I do.
yeah.
I would be honored, and that's a great question. And what I find so much with women today is women aren't doing themselves any favors. They're trying to be a lot of things
Mhm,
and they abandon themselves. And
mhm,
it's so hard. It's so hard to witness that when I'm seeing them. And what I create for all of my clients is a safe place
mhm,
for them to be able to come in, be raw, real. I don't rush them. I
mhm,
see them completely and I help them take the next step.
mhm.
Because as we know, when you take a step, then you can take another step.
Yeah.
And the more you do, the more you'll want to do. And the more you'll want to do, the more gets done.
Mhm,
And it's not overnight. I don't do anything glitzy and fast and slick. It's clear, connected, home, and about people, especially women, coming home to trust their own power.
yeah.
And, women, what I see as well, women aren't very kind to other women, especially in leadership.
Mm,
So to me, it's women actually learning how to support themselves
mhm,
and being able to support other women
mm,
because there are a lot of paradigms shifting right now and people are confused and they're scared.
mm.
And you need to be able to bank on something. And that banking on something is you. Like you need to really believe this is who I am.
Mhm.
This is what I have to offer, and to go at your pace and continually find that next step, no matter how big it is or how small.
Yeah.
But when you get stuck at the curb, like I always think about it, you pull over
Mhm,
and traffic's happening and you want to re enter the flow of traffic. It's really hard when you're stopped at the curb.
mhm.
But when you're in traffic, you can actually change lanes.
Yeah.
And when we get in that place of being afraid, we retreat. And then the fear kicks in. And then we isolate ourselves. And then the doubt kicks in. I'm not good enough. I won't be. It's like, hang on,
Yeah.
hang on. For me, I don't believe anybody's broken. I believe everybody needs to come back and remember what are their superpowers, and their superpowers are usually so simple. And yet you go, oh, but in the comparative scheme, that's not very much.
Mm,
And someone had shared with me this quote years ago, and I just love it. Don't compare yourself. It's like comparing the sun and the moon. They shine at different times.
mhm.
I love
And it's
that.
learning, yeah, and it's learning to shine in a way that's not a reaction to, it's not in comparison, and
Mhm,
actually coming home and going, Yeah, I'm good here."
mhm,
So what's interesting is people come to me because they need to calm down, they need to get settled. But it's also not just okay, we're going to sit, just have a cup of tea, and it's all going to be feel good. Well, no, we're going to roll up our sleeves. We're going to look at some things. And when I work with clients, they know I've got their back. And
mhm.
I will hear things from clients that they haven't even articulated to themselves, and I feel honored, and I cherish the space because I know how important it is to have that safe space to be able to put your thoughts out loud and go, "Wow, those are my thoughts. Do I agree with them?" And as we know, like the research shows us, 90% of the thoughts we have today, we had yesterday and we had last
Mhm.
week.
Mhm.
Mhm.
It's really eerie. It's like, wow, I need to look at my thoughts and really gauge, do I believe them? And if not, I got to figure out a way to just dismantle them and move on. But that's way easier said than done. And that's a big part where I kick in with clients. Yeah.
Yeah. It's very cool. I'm completely tracking. One of the one of the things you said is come home to your own power.
Yeah.
Say what that means.
Well, it means to actually be physically and emotionally and energetically present, not thinking about this, not being in, be right here. And that sounds so much easier than it actually is to do. And I always say to people, well, listen, do you have a dog? Do you have a cat? Do you have kids? They are great reflectors from when if you take a moment off site, the dog will tell you this, the cat will tell you. Cats, not quite as much. Dogs are really good with that. But that place of, we expect, oh, I should be able to do this for hours. Well, if you can be tuned in, turned on for 10 minutes, a lot can happen in 10 minutes. But if you spend an hour nowhere near here, not in this conversation, that makes it a lot of work, a lot of work. So that place for me is either rubbing my feet on the ground, getting my shoulders set, feeling like I'm dropping a cord off the base of my spine into the center of the earth. Anything that gets me physically
Mhm,
anchored in now.
mhm.
And knowing that there's a ton of shiny objects that take us off, whether it's, any of the social medias, any of the stuff coming up on your computers, or the dog going by, or the phone ringing, or what have you.
Yeah,
I feel fortunate. I was in the cell phone business when it was first starting in the late 80s. And, we learned then the phone doesn't control me. I can turn it off at any time.
mhm,
I don't know many people that turn their phone off. And I make sure I take some holidays that there's no cell signal.
mhm.
And if there is, it's marginal at best.
Yeah,
And it's fantastic for your nervous system.
yeah.
Well, especially my nervous system. So, yeah.
Of our nervous systems. I so appreciate what you're saying. Coming home is coming home to your own body,
Yeah.
Mm.
grounding your own body back with the earth, quieting the noise in your head, and coming back through your senses to yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Love
we know a lot more about this. I think about when I was in grade school. I mean, I'm glad that we didn't know what I mean, I'd be that kid with all the letters after her name, like Fidget Bridget. I was all the, and I've created a way of working that this deep concentration works, and then bing, I'm off doing something else. And it it's knowing that, and it's being able to share that, and it's, like working with clients going, "Oh, do we need to remove the labels from your shirt?" And they're like, "What?" I said, "Do your labels bug you?" And they go, "Yeah, how did you know?" I go, "Well, because I carry a seam ripper in my purse. Let's get rid of that label. Let's shift how that looks. Let's adjust the light.
Mm.
Wow, I'm just too sensitive." I said, "You know what? No one tells you you're too funny. If
Yeah,
you're sensitive,
Mm-hmm.
learn skills to support yourself." So
yeah.
I've got a whole host of reminders of, oh, right, if I'm feeling this, do that. If you've got this going on, think about that. And
Yeah.
when in doubt, go into the woods and turn off the phone. That's kind of my key.
It's like you're
Yeah.
giving them permission to be comfortable.
Yeah.
And as a woman, I get it. After a lifetime of shape-shifting myself into discomfort in order to fit in or be accepted or belong or get promoted or whatever external thing I was attaching myself to,
Yeah.
permission to get comfortable inside your own body. Shut
Totally.
down the noise. Notice what it feels like just to occupy yourself.
Yeah.
And then you start helping, like, rewrite some of the stories
Yeah.
that one might be telling themselves that
Yeah.
are
And the
yeah,
stories are rich,
yeah,
right? They're complex.
And some
love
of
it.
that is what you mentioned, honoring, like, there's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing to fix. There's
Mhm,
something special inside of you. And we, I think most people overlook those things in themselves because it's like, well, yeah, that's just how I am. Or like, that's not a big deal. That's not important or helpful to anyone else. But coming from that place of like, you are already whole
Yeah.
mhm,
and it's just rediscovering it, that can kind of help to just go, where am I right now?
mhm,
I'm
Yeah.
right here. I create a word of the year every year. And my word this year is savor. I chose that word because last year I spent the year doing. And then toward the end of the year, I hurt my back.
mm,
And, you think that's a physical thing, but it was because I was moving, not enjoying and holding all the tension in my back. And once I realized it, it's like, this is, of course there's something physical, but really it's because I need to slow down and enjoy where I am. So
Mhm.
after looking at all the words, savor is what I found. But part of that, the way I've been doing it is like, while I'm here with the two of you, I find myself when my mind starts to go, oh, I want to remember to ask her that thing. Actually, I'm right here in front of Ruth and Casey. And look where I get to be. And then it brings me back into my body.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Savor it.
I'm savoring this
Love
time
it.
with the two of you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
and often when we're with people, you know, I remember when I was initially going into sales and they talk about, you know, often people have two responses. They want to be interesting
Mhm.
Mhm.
or they can be interested. So
Mhm.
often when we're together, we're thinking about these things that we want to, because we want to be interested or ask that. And it's like, if I allow myself to be in the conversation, it will morph. And if that's needed or worth bringing in, then I'll find a way to bring it in. And
Yeah.
you know, years ago, I was reading this other research thing, and they were talking about, you know, how we get people excited to do something new. And
Mhm.
it's really about being interested. And they talked about the grandmother effect, where they took this computer and plunked it into a wall in Delhi with no instructions. And this 12-year-old girl taught herself how to do calculus with no instructions. But what they did hire was grannies that would come and peer over their shoulders and go, ah, wow.
Ah,
No technical
encouragement.
insight,
Mhm.
encouragement,
Mhm.
and knowing that we as humans, our number one need is to be seen and heard.
Yeah.
Seen and heard. And I had the pleasure of taking the Hoffman workshop. I don't know if you're familiar with the Hoffman process.
No. I've heard of
Um,
it.
It's it's phenomenal, and it's full on, like, it's a full week, you hand over your phones, it starts at 7:30 in the morning, and it goes till 10 o'clock at night, and it's about peeling back your patterns, understanding your patterns, knowing your patterns in your family, and then finding a way to heal and move through, and it's phenomenal, and it was in that workshop that they were really talking to us about, we all want to be seen and heard,
Mhm.
and I don't care how old anybody is, I don't care how accomplished they are, to see them and hear them, and I find with a lot of the leadership people that I work with, the higher up they go in the organization, the fewer people see them. There are more expectations, they need them to be something,
Yeah.
but really, are they being seen?
Yeah.
And, you know, you watch kids, when you see them, they stop.
Mm.
And so I just do that now with people, like, walking the dog. My dog makes great eye contact, so he forces everybody to stop. He really is the ambassador of joy, so you can't get by him, and he's not small. Like, he was supposed to be 60 pounds, but he's 90, so he's he's and, like, I can see him make eye contact with people a block away,
Mm.
and they come and I go, "Need a hello?" And they go, "Yeah." So I've just learned to stand at the end of the leash, give them whatever time. There's a lot of seniors and vets that live around this neighborhood. I give them whatever time they need. Could
Yeah.
be 2 minutes, could be 10. I might be part of the conversation, usually not,
Mhm.
and his
Yeah.
work is done, and we move along, and I go, "Okay,
Mhm.
great."
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always say dogs have so much to teach us.
Mm.
It's like the way that they will stop and smell something. Like, I'm not on your time. I'm here to smell and enjoy where I am. Or like I'm here to say hello to whoever I want to say hello to. And let's just be in the moment together. We could learn so much from dogs and from children.
Yep.
Totally.
Yeah.
I totally and dogs with boundaries, you
Yeah.
know, if a dog comes too close, they don't go, "Oh, sorry, did I offend you?" I
Yeah.
said no. I really said no. Like,
Yeah.
my last dog, I think I should have done training for grade 8 girls on what no really looked like. Like,
Mm.
she did not pretend, and she went from 0 to 1,000 like that, and dogs understood, and there was no
Mhm.
Yeah.
second conversation. It was like, "Got it."
Which is also another thing we can learn from dogs because, like when you think about couples or people who are in a close relationship, there's often a complaint. And like, I wish they would do something different because I have a complaint. And then we say, well, you should ask for what you want. What is the thing you want? And a dog will say, what I want, put that down, pay attention to me.
Exactly.
With no
Exactly. Yeah.
hesitation.
With no hesitation.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
what is it? It's in the way of humans doing that.
Yeah.
because we think someone won't be interested or find us interesting if we ask for what we need.
Yeah.
That's true for women
Yeah.
often. We get
Yeah.
societalized to not be seen and not be heard,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and somewhere along the way, we adopt those external messages as our own inside voice.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not congruent with who we are,
Mm-mm.
right? And somehow
Oh,
it's become a manufactured story and you go, "How did I get so far from my truth?"
right.
Oh, well, I did these stops. So I did these. I know for me, when I left corporate and before I went in to do the Reiki training, I really had a serious chat with myself. Like, oh, this is fun. I'm making lots of money
Mhm.
and I'm feeling a bit like I'm selling my soul to the devil. And where am I in all of this equation? And
Yeah.
then doing the radical turn and going, oh, okay, well, I'll start my own thing. Well, when you're your own business, the integrity has to be there. Well, it doesn't have to be, but to me, it has to be there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And it's really quick if you're operating in
Mhm.
any way out of line with who you are.
Yeah. Give us a little taste of that part of your story. I'm curious that you started in a mental health hospital and then went to Xerox and then back to Reiki. Like, what's going on your insides through that path?
Well, when I went to work at the Mental Institute, I was playing women's ice hockey at that time. I was playing for UBC, and one of my pals that I played with said, "Oh, you should be doing this." We were playing on scholarship, so it was very exciting, which was a big deal in the early 80s for women, especially in Canada, to be on a scholarship. So we were playing really high level, and she's like, "I think you'd really like this job." And then that's where I got into working at the Mental Institute, and it was really interesting because there are there's no pretending. Like
Mhm.
there aren't the social understandings of, oh, you don't do this, you don't like people said stuff, they came up, they looked you in the face, they did. It was really huge.
Mhm.
Um, and I can't quite remember, but it was another friend, a good friend I'd gone to kindergarten with, said, you should be working at Xerox.
Mm.
And I'm like, what? So, of course, I threw in my resume and I took her dad's briefcase to my interviews because I didn't, and I don't even think I had anything in it, right? But you carry a
You had to look
briefcase, and
the part.
Yeah.
yeah, and I was coming out of university, and at that point, everybody and working at the Mental Institute, wearing rugby pants and casual clothes. Well, I got a skirt and I got a blazer and I got nylons. I think I wore the same thing to every interview. And 5 interviews later, then they send you off to Leesburg, West Virginia, and you get trained. And I went, wow, I quite like sales because sales is just about relationship,
Yeah,
and it's
people
about
psychology. Yeah.
and there weren't many women in sales, and I really liked it, and I was always curious, and I'd ask these questions, and in the interior of BC, I got moved to a place that's about a 12-hour drive out of Vancouver, and there I was, and I went, this is interesting. It's a pulp and paper mill town. There was lots of things going on. I went, oh, this is interesting. And like just stuff started to happen. And then I moved to another town that was closer to Vancouver. It was beautiful. It was on lakes and I would water ski before I went to work in the morning and then got promoted and came back to Vancouver and went, wow, this is really cool. And then it just felt like more. I'd already been at Xerox now 5 years in that period of time. And a friend that I dragon boated with said, there's this cool company doing cell phones. And I went, oh. So she said, I've just gotten the customer service manager's job. There's a sales training manager's job. I think you'd be great at it.
Mm.
And that was my segue into there, which was so interesting because when I started for Western Canada, there were 75 employees. And then in a span of time, it went up to 450. So I was there while it was the
Booming.
Wild West growing. And that's when I met Matthew. Yeah. So Matthew, when I was director of operations, the ultimate job that I had, we'd hire a lot. And Matthew came in, and it's pretty funny because he was a young guy. I think he might have been 23 or 24.
Yeah.
And I encountered him years later, and he's like, do you remember what you said to me the first day you met me? And it's like, I'd like to say yes, Matthew, but I
Hello?
don't. And he goes, I do. And you said, and he recounted it, and he's like, I remember, and you taught me so much, and you made me, and I thought if the director's going to answer my questions, it was very sweet. And by this time he'd moved on, so that had all come forward. So the corporate time, as I said, was really, really interesting. And then I just found myself, I mean, I was heavily living on caffeine. Like I would drink 2 double cappuccinos and probably 6 to 8 cups of coffee a day. And I was running and paddling and like it was full on intensity. And I seemed to be a bit tired. And I remember dealing with a naturopath who said, well, tell me what you do to relax. I said, well, I run, I go to the gym, I do this. And he goes, well, what do you do to
I
relax?
don't relax.
I said, you're not listening. I run, I go to the gym, I paddle. And I couldn't hear what he was saying. I couldn't grasp it. And then when it came to this fork on the road about would you like to be promoted or would you like to be positioned to be punted, and that worked out, and I was dealt with really well. I felt so grateful and got a really healthy handshake. It probably took me 14 weeks after, and I was only in my late 30s. It wasn't like, I was
Mhm.
but it took me probably 14 weeks to exhale, and
Mm.
that was really the beginning of understanding. It was the first time ever
Mhm.
I didn't have a safety net. I didn't have a sense of what was next. Like, even after high school, I went traveling to Europe, did the year rail pass, went, but I knew what day I was coming back to start my summer job.
Mhm.
I had that date. There was always, but when I, you know, left and had that, it was like, what, what could this
Yeah.
look like? What could it feel like? How would I bring this forward? And, to be saying in the mid 90s that I'm going to do coaching, people are like, well, what is that? What does it mean? What's it feel like? What do you do? And I'm like, well, I've been coaching forever. That's what my university degree was in. And it's just about bringing people home to themselves and helping them do
Yeah.
more than they thought they could do in
Yeah.
whatever form that is. So
Yeah.
that's more in there, which it's been really cool because it's really unorthodox and then when you kick in technology, like before I would have office in the house and clients would come. Well, now I wish I'd known in 2015 about the future of Zoom. Would have been a good place to invest, but
Me
shoulda, woulda,
too.
coulda. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah.
remember in my own story the moment in time, because I remember saying it to my therapist. It's the first time in my life I don't know where I'm going. Like, I have no vision for what's next. I remember how distressing it felt to be
Mm,
blank inside my own mind.
yeah.
And one of those retroactive things when you put the hindsight lenses on, what I didn't know at the time was that that was the beginning of my spiritual awakening.
Cool.
Like, no, you're no longer what I made up from it was the reason you always knew what was next before is because you were hustling. You were chasing this
Yeah.
thing called achievement, that the freedom that comes with not knowing. Once you work through the body connection and get through the distress and anxiety of not knowing and the uncertainty that comes with it, then there's a freedom on the other side of surrender.
Yeah, and I don't know if you guys have experienced this, but I have been coming home to understanding, oh, I'm allowed to ask for more. Like
Mhm.
it was just, oh, well, this'll do, or this is pretty interesting, or
Yeah.
not being very deliberate about what this looks like. When I was in the chapter of, becoming unmarried and staying at my brother's place, it was so interesting. They've got one young son, and my brother's, his comment was, well, you want to think about who you're working with and how far you're driving to work. And my sister-in-law was like, you want to think about security. And I'm like, I never thought about any of those things at any of the chapter. It was like, what would be interesting? Sounds good for now, but didn't ever allow myself to go, what what else might you want it to be? And it takes taking away the security or the form to go, how does this look? Even us chatting, I mean, that was Matthew saying, oh, you should talk to these guys. And it's like, oh, right. It's a bit of a stretch. It's kind of uncomfortable. What are we going to talk about? Just trust it or show up.
Yeah.
Trust it.
Mm-hmm.
Trust
Let your
yourself, trust the process. Yeah.
Yeah.
You get
Yeah.
to want more, and you get to believe that it's possible for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be painstaking.
Yeah.
I don't have to prove that I deserve it. I mean, I've done a lot of proving, as I think most people have, and predominantly women
Mm,
have. And it's like, you don't need to prove you're here. So of
yeah.
course.
There's nothing more to prove.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. Mm.
I feel like there are 8 different directions I want to go right now with the proving it. But right before we logged on with you, Ruth, Casey and I were talking about a Toastmasters speaking competition or contest that I did over the weekend. I've never done one before.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and I got there and I saw who I was competing against, and it was some older white men, and there were a variety of people, but I was like, I am surrounded by women all the time. It's just, in the mental health field, lots of women. And so that's my comfort zone. I was very outside of my comfort zone, but I ended up winning. I took first place. And
Did
so,
you open it? Right on.
yeah. But it was one of those things like we have to get outside of our comfort zone and do the thing that you're like, I don't know if I can do that. And then you're like, oh, I actually am very capable. And I wouldn't have signed up for that except that a man who's in my club, in my Toastmasters club, said, if you sign up, I'll sign up. And I said, okay, I felt pressured, like not in a bad way, like I know I should do this. But why didn't it come to me first? Why wouldn't I have thought I deserve to be in that contest? I'm good enough.
Mhm.
I needed someone to push me a little bit.
Yeah. Someone
Well,
to
and
someone to lock arms with you and say, "I'll go with you."
Yeah, come
yes.
It's a
on.
little scary
You're
unless you
capable,
have.
Emily. Go do it.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
That
Yeah.
is so cool,
Mm,
Emily. And also in understanding that you created that support with him. Like he could
Yeah.
see the glimmer of hope and then nudge. And when
Yeah.
people around us get it and they do the nudge, our job is only to say, oh, okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Well, we also resist, but when we can feel the resisting,
Yeah.
oh, I'm just so delighted for you. That's not a that's not a slouchy thing to win one of those contests.
That's
yeah.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
She's super brave.
I
Yeah.
practice
And
it. It is a
no,
thing I practice.
yeah, Emily is one of these she's one of my leadership heroes for this reason because she on purpose puts herself in situations she knows will cause her discomfort in order to cross those uncomfortable edges, and I think that's courageous as
Thanks,
Yeah,
Casey.
I'm totally with Casey on that. And it's cool. And you also take a look, and if we don't let our voices be heard, then our voices won't be heard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we need to speak up and we need to stand up because I do find with a lot of women, they go, "Oh, well, I didn't get a chance." It's like, but did you step up? Did you
Yeah.
speak up?
Yeah.
Did you? No one's going to say, "Oh, and Ruth, do join us at the table. Do come and." It's like I got to walk in. I've got to start speaking up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and you know what? You touched on something that I think is important about this, where we are in this moment a few minutes ago. In my experience, it has felt, especially in the leadership, business, corporate industry arena world, like women have, in order to survive, we've maybe overcorrected into our masculine energy. And from that, I think we don't support and lift each other. But instead, I think we have a tendency to compete with
Yeah,
another and diminish or disparage each
yeah,
other. We must stop.
yeah,
Like, the world is hard enough
yeah,
for us to even exist, let alone when we're trying to combat each other.
yeah.
I think we owe it to ourselves and our sisters, champions and lifters. Like, I want to celebrate your success as much as I want success for myself because that's
Well,
good for all of us, you
and
know?
when we understand, we've seen a very limited version of leadership. We've
Mm,
seen a very masculine, not necessarily male, but a very masculine
right.
version, which has been about goals, objectives, KPIs, linear. We need the feminine, which is the community, the collaboration, the conscious conflict, and
The
it's not
fulfillment,
one.
the
Yeah,
emotion is wisdom.
yeah, and
Mhm.
it's not one or the other, it's how do we bring them both
Oh,
together?
yeah.
And this is what I've seen. We also have had an inundation of extroverted leaders, and I really see the bulk of my practice are introverts.
Mhm.
They and not just saying introverts can do it, but there is that being deliberate where people's voices are heard, they're invited into the conversation, it's brought forward, and we do need the understanding of both sides. And when we have women leading like
Mhm.
men, then they are abandoning themselves.
Yeah.
And there are men that lead from a masculine and feminine style, and there are women, but we have a very limited concept of what leadership looks like. And there's a far greater awareness,
Mhm.
far greater capacity of what's available. But it
Yeah.
takes effort and it takes, like Emily, it takes challenging the status quo because there aren't a lot of versions out there.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And yet when people can step up and operate from that place,
Mhm.
oh my goodness, it just transforms organizations, it transforms people.
Totally.
And there's a great quote that always, stirs me up, but it it's an African proverb and it talks about if you want to go fast, go alone. Like just go do it. You
Want
want
to
to
go
go
far?
far? Go
Go
together.
together.
Mhm.
And going together far takes longer to get started, but once the momentum kicks in, but
Yeah.
most people want the results right this minute. And
Well,
if
it
we
goes back to the work you're doing in your coaching practice, I think. It requires
Yeah,
us to reconnect with our bodies
yeah,
so that we can slow down.
yeah,
You don't need to be in such a hustle. And the introverts in the room will amaze you if you slow down enough to hear what
yeah,
they have to say.
yeah,
I'm married to an introvert. My daughter is an introvert. I'm surrounded in my life by introverts. Clearly, I'm extroverted. When I self manage myself to get slow, still, quiet, wisdom comes from these people that I've hungered for my whole life and missed out on not realizing I was part of the problem. Like, slow down, be quiet, open yourself to hearing and learning from the people around you. They might just blow your mind with
but
the gifts that they have to offer.
but that insight takes experience. Like,
Mhm,
experience is the only thing that opens up to that wisdom.
mhm,
And when we can give ourselves permission to listen in, I'll often refer to it with clients as self-leadership. Like, when I learn to lead myself, I
mhm.
can lead the world.
Yeah,
And I need to be home to lead me. I need to actually understand, am I having the impact I intend?
yeah,
If not, I need to look at the gap. Most
yeah,
people don't want to stop and look at the gap because everything that happens is a reflection of how you've shown up.
right.
And that sounds so simple. Well, he's done this or she's doing this or they're off topic. It's like you're leading them.
Mhm.
You're leading them. You've created the container. You're trying to usher in their brilliance and it's not happening. I wonder what we could shift here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amen to that, sister, and I would even flip that script just a little and say, until you have found a way to navigate leading yourself, you really have no business enrolling followers behind you.
Here, here. And, like I will often do teamwork, team stuff, but I will never work on inside of the team until I've worked with the leader.
Yeah.
The
Well,
leader
because
needs to
why
be
change the team if the leader's not right?
well, but how many leaders do you know that go, well, if you could just fix this stuff here? And it's like, no, but it's still going to be the same when you come back and you've got your hands on the wheel. So,
Yeah.
and not everybody's up for that. Like, if that could just be fixed, we'll go. And,
Mm,
it's the kind of leadership that there's a beauty to it. I remember years ago getting, had someone bring me into that space of, well, we've got lots of experts. They've read the books, they know the stuff, they're experts. The authority, they've been there. They've actually done the school of hard knocks. They know what it feels like. Like, you can't shortcut authority.
yeah.
And it does take some understanding. And it does take, like, I just keep going back to Emily going, I got nudged into saying yes to going to this this
Mm,
competition, and now you're like owning all of it because you can feel every fiber of your being what it took to get up and over that threshold and then command the presence to deliver it. Yeah, you practice, yeah, you knew your stuff, but you actually had to get consolidated to
Mhm.
be there. Like you had to be there. Once
Mhm.
you were there, that was the finishing touch, but not so easy.
These are
Yeah.
not lessons you're gonna learn in a book.
No.
They're
Oh,
through
no.
lived experience. You have to have felt the pain and earned the humility.
Yeah.
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 Mhm.
Yeah. There is also, talking about introverts, there that can be a superpower. I really do think the introverts in my life are the ones who are much more aware of what it feels like to walk into a room full of people and like it's uncomfortable to walk up and introduce yourself. So then when they do know the people and someone walks in, they're much more inclusive and invite people and make sure that, this is so and so and this is what we were talking about, doing things like that. But then as a leader, being an introvert, you understand your energy
Mhm.
and that not everyone should be out in front of people and talking to each other all of the time. And that there's just different ways of doing it. But all of our models, the people we think of are extroverts. It's like the
Mhm.
people who are out there. Um, and I also wanted to say Sarah Blakely, who created Spanx, she is my favorite when I think about business because you were saying, kind of the masculine, feminine. Uh, Sarah said when she started business, all of the men in her life said it's war. Business is war. And she was like, what? I don't want to go to war. And she said they were all wrong. Business is not war. You can collaborate, you can create community, you can celebrate, and there's no war in that. And she is incredibly successful and
Yeah.
also just seems like a really wonderful person. So,
Well, that's their version, right?
yes.
And that's
But
the version they've been living into.
Yeah.
notice all the attributes that she inserted into that recipe were feminine.
Right.
Yeah.
Celebration, collaboration, community,
Yeah.
and then there's the masculine perspective, or we have to battle and kill each other and leave each other bloody on the field in order to
And
advance.
somebody wins and somebody loses, but there actually is room for everybody to rise up. And
Hmm.
it's a shift now in what that understanding is. And part of, as I said, so many people in my practice are introverts, and people get confused with that introverts are shy. No, they just don't waste their words. They are thoughtful, and they're not going to just throw words in, when there is a barrage of people speaking. They will speak thoughtfully, but they're not going to push. Not many will push in, and and we need both. It's not one or the other. We need the variety.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all about leveraging the balance between the both and of it all, not one better or gooder or badder than the other. What
Totally.
I love about the way the introverts in my world move about the world energetically is there's this sense of like, I live here and you are welcome to come towards me,
Mm.
but I will not insert myself into your universe.
Yeah.
You can come towards. There's such a confidence about it.
Yeah.
Really respect.
Yeah.
Um, they just like they move like they know they're okay.
Yeah. Well, and with the introverts I've worked with, they know they're okay, and they know that if they don't honor that, they won't be okay.
Exactly.
So there's a
They
fine balance of
Yeah,
I can't abandon myself. I can't become someone that you need, else I'm going to short circuit.
exactly.
Um, yeah.
That Thank you for naming that. That's the
Yeah.
quality I expect so much.
Yeah.
Whereas I think there's a tendency in extrovert land, or at least in the inside of my extroversion, that's like, I need to go be with you in order to be okay,
Yeah.
Mm.
you know?
Well, and I know for me, I've learned the outward things, but I know I need timeouts. Like I
Mm.
go to the bathroom, wash my hands a lot, and I just circle the wagons and come home. And like people go, "What?" Like, yeah,
Mm.
but I can be out, but not for very long. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know your limit. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's like now what you're speaking about goes back to something you said in the beginning. Stop abandoning yourself. And then I would add and or notice when you have or if you have, recover to yourself.
Yeah.
Do whatever it takes to recover to yourself when you notice that you've left yourself behind. Even if it's go pet your dog, wash your hands, take a breath, be quiet, whatever.
And to know that each and every one of us are needed here.
Yeah.
Like, we've all come, we all have a way of contributing that no one else on the face of the earth does. And as long as we don't try and do it like somebody else, then it will be received.
Mhm.
Um, and the receiving doesn't have to happen like, like a huge eruption. It might just be a thank you or walking by, or we get kind of distorted on what it needs to be when realizing, like when I watch my dog engage the way he does, I go, oh, that was good. He's not looking for a fanfare. He's like, done my job. Thank you. Move along. Done
Yeah,
my job. It's like,
yeah,
oh, as simple as that. Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Right on, Ruth. I know, it's landing now, the particles you dropped in early in the conversation, like, why would we compare ourselves to each other?
Yeah.
There is no need. You are the only you
Yeah.
on the planet. You're uncomparable. And if you don't occupy you, no one else can.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So stop
Well,
looking over there to see who you should be and just start being who you are right here, right now, because the
yeah.
world needs like, your presence matters.
Well, and it sounds so simple, right? And the safety of this conversation.
Yeah.
And yet that really is what's needed.
Mhm.
It is what's needed. And I find more than ever, people need to have, authentic conversations. They need to be seen for real. They need to know that it's right here. And we've gotten really rusty socially since COVID. I know a lot of people think we're back in action and it's good,
No,
but
it's
you
different.
know, people are lonely and people are isolated and people are, and it's like, right. And it doesn't need to be that complicated. I have one client and she challenges herself to see how many people she can have smile back at her when she goes grocery shopping.
No, I
No,
love
no
that.
conversation. No, she just, I'm like, right
Yeah,
on. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I
She
love
doesn't like go stare them down or anything and like
no.
smirk at them if they don't respond. But yeah.
Mhm,
Yeah.
That can make a difference in someone's day.
mhm.
Totally.
I'm the
Yeah.
smiler at the
Yeah.
grocery store too. I admit I still am human. I get just a little hurt when people don't smile back, but many don't. I think COVID permanently changed us.
Yeah.
And it does that. A global pandemic where we become afraid to be in each other's presence for our lives.
Yeah.
We're different. I think it's important that we sort of mindset shift away from back to normal to the creation of a new normal.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But your point is so amazingly well put, which is we need each other. So we
Yeah.
can't keep living in a way that assumes we don't, because
Yeah.
we absolutely do. We're biologically hardwired to be in relationship with each other, and we can't do this thing called life alone. And believing that, I think, is why we suffer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm.
Ruth, is there anything we didn't ask you about that we should have?
What I would share is, we touched a little bit on these legal cases that I was involved with, and it's not about the legal cases and not about finding my way off my knees.
Mhm.
It's an understanding that if they hadn't happened, I wouldn't be as passionate about where I am now. And
Mhm.
in that way, realizing I have more to offer because I didn't take a straight line. And
Mhm.
that's the part when I check in with people. How are you? Where are you? It's being able to really connect in at that level and going, is this where you thought you'd be?
Mhm.
What does that mean to you? And how does that feel? And to also realize it's constantly a choice. It's
Mm.
constantly a choice. So what choice do you want to make? And
Yeah.
not absolving yourself of that. So for me, it's been an interesting place in this whole series of things of being able to make that choice and an understanding. So I don't know that there's another question. I mean, I I love connecting with you guys, and I would,
Yeah.
if there's any of your followers that want to chat, I mean, I'll give you my LinkedIn thing, and like to me, what I've come to understand is I just want to connect. It's not, oh my goodness, they need to work with me. It's like, well, we either will or we won't, but it needs to be a fit. Does it work for you? Work for me?
Mhm.
Great. If not, move along. But it's not about it needs to be this, it needs to be that. I feel like I have now come to a place where I've earned the right for it to be genuine and
Yeah.
mutually interesting and to trust that. And that's been a massive shift in how I'm able to show up and do the work that I do. And I feel honored because I get a front row seat to some amazing transformations. Well, all of my clients do amazing transformations, but there are things that you go, well, shit, that's never going to happen. Holy mackerel, look at what's going on. And people defying the impossible and
Yeah.
realizing it's all impossible until you do it. And then you
Mhm.
go, oh, done, tick.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Living a life of the impossible being
Yeah.
yeah.
possible.
It's like,
Yeah.
let's see if you can get you to surprise yourself. I dare you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's amazing how you can shift. It's not living in a massive house, or it could be living in a massive house or doing massive trips. It can be that simple walk around the block with your dog going, wow, I'm healthy and I'm meeting people and that's interesting and what's going on or what are you hearing? And I mean, I don't know if you've been following any of the Olympics. I haven't been super immersed in it, but there's always fascinating stories. And there's a young man on the Canadian hockey team that played hockey with my nephew when he was little. And, we had pictures
Mm.
out of him last night when the two of them were 5 in kindergarten. And he's a hot rod for Canada. And it's just so cool because his dad's been interviewed and he's got 3 other kids. And they were saying to the dad, are you proud of him? Well, of course I'm proud of him, but I'm also proud of my 3 other kids. And I'm like, right
That's
on,
cool.
Dad.
Yeah.
I know. I
Mhm.
know. And it may not look like what somebody else is doing. Just
Mhm.
believe that what you're doing has elements and we all have an impact. And are you having the impact you intend? And if
Yeah.
not, check in, make some changes, or quit harboring the hope that you want to have that impact.
Yeah.
Easier said than done. But
Yeah.
once you start giving yourself that opening, you go, oh, I'm just going to let that go now. Huh, I'm so much lighter. And Emily and I were talking at the very beginning. Tuesday, I don't know when the timing of this is going to come out, but Tuesday is the Lunar New Year where things are opening. And it's the year of the horse, the year of snake's been
We're
leaving.
gonna
There's,
complete the snake shedding and the horse
yeah.
shedding
And the
and
planetary stuff, it's like symbols coming together and and this is the first time in 60 years the magnitude of this has come together. And it's like, don't hold on to anything. Like, be willing to put
release it.
anything that, yeah. And, like, I'm just cracking up. I've been, like, letting go of stuff. It's like, "Oh, okay, you're done. That's done. Okay." And it's like, that's not so hard once you get started. Once you get let go of that grip, it's
Yeah.
like, "Oh, yeah."
Yeah.
So, fun.
Good.
Just let go. Stirred listeners, thank you so much for joining us today as we bring you stories of growth in the human experience. We appreciate you, and we have a request for you. If you will take 30 seconds to do these 3 things for us. 1, follow or subscribe to Soul Stirred Podcast. This makes sure you never miss an episode and helps us to make sure you never miss an episode. Head over to your preferred platform, click the Soul Stirred Podcast show page, and click the plus sign or the follow button. Second, we'd love it if you could give us a 5-star rating while you're there. Finally, choose your favorite episode and share it with a friend.
We are so grateful to all of our listeners for your continued support helping Soul Stirred grow and ultimately inspire others through authentic connection. Don't hesitate to reach out with ideas, stories, or questions. We are always eager to hear from you. Our email and social links are found in every episode's show notes. Until next time, keep stirring your soul and embracing your journey.
Take good care of yourselves and of each other. Bye-bye.